You mentioned World War I. That happens to be my speciality. Please, allow me to set the stage. The war to end all wars was like a fine cup of tea. It took its time to steep and develop its bitter flavors. Europe hadn't known war of this caliber since the fall of Napoleon. Nonetheless, resentment rose along with the tides of trade and globalization. Between 1800 and 1913, European trade rose from 1/30 to 1/3 of world production, and 2/3 of global trade. The European nations had put up a facade of peacekeeping, shown through the grace and style of the French Belle Epoque, the beautiful era. Many maintained the fact that war was now simply irrational. Nations were increasingly democratic.
It's time for World War I. The world is about to have a war, because it's the 1900s and weapons are getting crazy, and all these empires are excited to try them out on each other. Germany, which just had war declared on it by Britain, because Britain was friends with Belgium, which was being trespassed by Germany in order to get to France to kick France's ass, because France is friends with Russia, who was getting ready to kick Austria's ass, because Austria was getting ready to kick Serbia's ass, because someone from Serbia shot the leader of Austria's ass. Actually shot him in the head.
March 21st, 1871. Germany has united under the leadership of Otto von Bismarck, a militaristic leader of powerful prose and rhetoric. This powerful European nation seemed on the verge of major expansion. Militarism, nationalism, and patriotic sentiment flying high. Bismarck found support in France of Joseph I of Austria-Hungary and Vittorio Emanuele Orlando of Italy. Together, they formed the Triple Alliance. Out of fear, an opposing alliance was formed, the Triple Entente, composed of Russia, led by Tsar Nicholas II, France, led by George Clemenceau, and David Lloyd George of the United Kingdom. Tensions were rising between Serbia and Austria-Hungary, and the Black Hand, and young Bosnia Serbian nationalist organizations, which consisted of Serbian army officers and the younger population adding to the rabble. Their primary goal was to unite the Slavic peoples into one nation, Yugoslavia, and saw only one way for it to form: an assassination. It was a dark and dreary day. Archduke Franz Ferdinand was visiting Sarajevo to check up on the armed forces of Bosnia and Herzegovina. While parading the city, his pleasant ride was interrupted by a bomb. The heinous attack was committed by Serbian nationalist Nedeljko Kabrnivok, who had planned the attack to demonstrate Serbia's desire to be an independent nation. The bomb did not explode instantly, however. Rather, it rolled off the car, proceeding to explode in the street. Later that day, the Archduke was visiting an injured officer when Kabrnivik's cohort, Gavrilo Princip, spotted Ferdinand in his car. He took the opportunity to shoot both Ferdinand and his wife. While he was wrestled to the ground by police officers, the Archduke and his wife tragically died. Their deaths set events into motion long in the planning, leading to the First World War, the Great War to end all wars. This so-called Great War was fought with a host of technological innovations. The advancements in weaponry leading up to and during the war created new methods of fighting, one of which was the infamous trench warfare. September 5th, 1914, south of the Marne River. The German advance into France is finally halted deep within French territory. Neither side is able to advance, and deep fortifications are placed, trenches which mark the battle lines of the Western Front, and the beginning of this kind of warfare. Both the Allied and the Central Powers had developed new types of rifles, capable of shooting faster, farther, while inflicting heavy casualties. These new rifles were accompanied by high-powered, quickly reloadable machine guns, and chemical warfare in the form of mustard and chlorine gases. Poison gas was first used near the Belgian city of Ypres. On October 19, 1914, Allied and German forces engaged in a series of 3 battles for control of the city and its advantageous position. In the second battle, German forces surprised Allied soldiers by firing 150 tons of lethal chlorine gas against 2 French divisions. Violent modes of transportation also grew in popularity during World War I with tanks and U-boats. Tanks were largely used on both sides to cover land that was deemed too dangerous for soldiers to cross on foot, causing great devastation as they crossed the landscape. leaving the land effectively useless afterwards. This no-man's land between trenches was often occupied with tanks, since they provide a safe shelter to cross in. Germany adopted the U-boat, famously pulling the United States into the war by assuming unrestricted submarine warfare and sinking the British passenger liner Lusitania. The war was the cause of the greatest loss of life in military history. The Battle of Verdun, in February 21, 1916, attributing nearly 1 million casualties to artillery, while the Battle of Somme, July 1, 1916, a reported 1 million men were killed. September 26, 1918. The Battle of Meuse-Argonne marked the final battle of the World War. A mixed Allied offensive swept into Germany, breaking past trench lines and finally out of the war-ravaged France. This was the crux that pushed Germany to surrender. The war was over, ended on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918. Germany, depleted of resources and manpower, facing imminent invasion, signed an armistice agreement in a railroad car outside of Compiègne, France, formally ending conflict. Out of the ashes of 9 million dead and 21 million soldiers wounded arose a new Europe. Those who fought were left with a broken mind, due to a condition known at the time as shell shock, but more commonly referred to today as PTSD. Recent research by Johns Hopkins University found that the brain tissue of veterans who had been exposed to explosives during the war maintained a similar pattern of injury, that which affected decision-making, memory, and overall reasoning. These soldiers, lost within themselves, became the lost generation. Due to their silent and somber manner, long-lasting breakdowns were concluded to be an underlying lack of character. Soldiers were put on trial, and in many cases executed for military crimes, such as cowardice or desertion. The effects of the war were devastating on the economies of Europe. A vast destruction of physical property, along with the financial drain from the war, was a major cause for suffering on the continent. Debts as large as $10 billion were to be paid off. European governments began to rapidly print more money, resulting in cases of hyperinflation in such countries. The middle class fell into hardships, as the investments they had been depending on and living so comfortably on fell from beneath them. The idea of La Belle Époque had come to an end, and the optimism that came with it had as well. In a sense, their minds were numbed by this newfound concept of peace, so new, so raw, so foreign.
World War II.